The meeting ended at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in March. I remember the exact time because I was staring at my laptop screen when Vice President Richardson delivered his verdict on 18 months of my work. My ideas were unrealistic, he said. Too complex for practical implementation. Too expensive for the current market conditions. I closed my laptop quietly and gathered my notes. Richardson had already moved on to the next agenda item, discussing quarterly projections with the kind of enthusiasm he'd never shown for my patent portfolio. The same portfolio that had generated $5 million in revenue over the past 2 years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with what Richardson didn't know when he dismissed my work that Tuesday afternoon. He didn't know that I'd spent the previous 6 months documenting every interaction we'd had about my projects. He didn't know that I'd been keeping detailed records of the revenue streams generated by my patents. And he certainly didn't know that I'd already scheduled a meeting with his boss for the following week. These things happen in corporate environments. Ideas get misunderstood. Value gets overlooked. People make decisions based on incomplete information. I'd learned long ago that the best response to such situations isn't emotional outbursts or public confrontations. It's preparation. My background in materials engineering had taught me to think systematically about problems. When you're developing new alloys or testing composite structures, you can't rely on assumptions or gut feelings. You need data. You need evidence. You need to understand the complete picture before you make recommendations. This approach had served me well during my 8 years at Meridian Technologies. I joined the company straight out of graduate school, bringing expertise in advanced materials that they desperately needed for their aerospace division. My first patent came within 18 months of joining. A new aluminum titanium alloy that reduced weight by 12% while maintaining structural integrity. The patent licensing deals started small, a few $1,000s here and there from companies looking to incorporate our materials into their products. But word spread quickly in the aerospace industry. Our alloys were solving real problems for manufacturers who needed lighter, stronger materials for next-generation aircraft. By my 3rd year, the licensing revenue had reached 6 figures annually. By my 5th year, we were approaching 7 figures. The patents I'd developed weren't just theoretical innovations sitting in filing cabinets. They were practical solutions that companies were paying substantial sums to use. Richardson had been promoted to Vice President of Engineering 2 years ago. He came from the software side of the business, where development cycles were measured in months rather than years, where you could iterate quickly and push updates to fix problems after release. The deliberate, methodical approach required for materials research seemed to frustrate him. Our first major disagreement came about a year into his tenure. I'd proposed a new research direction focused on ceramic matrix composites for hypersonic applications. The initial research would require significant investment in specialized equipment and a timeline measured in years rather than quarters. Richardson's response was predictable. Too expensive, too speculative, too far removed from our current product lines. He preferred projects with clear, immediate returns on investment, projects that could show results within the current fiscal year. I tried to explain the long-term strategic value. Hypersonic flight was the next frontier in aerospace technology. Companies that developed the necessary materials early would have enormous competitive advantages. The patent protection alone could be worth hundreds of millions in licensing revenue. But Richardson was focused on quarterly numbers. He wanted projects that would boost this year's performance metrics, projects that would make him look good in board presentations. So I adapted my approach. I continued the ceramic matrix research using discretionary funds from my existing budget. I worked evenings and weekends, treating it as a side project rather than a primary initiative. I documented everything meticulously, building a comprehensive record of progress and potential applications. The breakthrough came 8 months later, a new ceramic composite that could withstand temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit while maintaining structural integrity at hypersonic speeds. The implications were staggering. This material could revolutionize everything from spacecraft heat shields to hypersonic aircraft engines. I prepared a detailed presentation for Richardson, outlining the technical specifications, potential applications, and projected licensing revenue. I included comparisons to existing materials, cost-benefit analyses, and a proposed timeline for full-scale development. Richardson's reaction was swift and dismissive. The technology was too advanced for current market needs. The development costs were prohibitive. The timeline was unrealistic for our business objectives. He suggested I focus on more practical applications, incremental improvements to existing alloys, modifications that could be implemented quickly and cheaply, projects that would generate immediate revenue rather than long-term strategic advantages. I listened to his feedback without argument. I thanked him for his time and returned to my lab. But I didn't abandon the ceramic matrix research. Instead, I began preparing for a different kind of presentation. The next 6 months were crucial. I continued developing the ceramic composite technology while simultaneously building my case for its strategic importance. I researched patent landscapes in hypersonic materials, identifying gaps where our technology could provide dominant positions. I analyzed competitor activities, tracking their research investments and patent filings. Most importantly, I documented the revenue performance of my existing patents. The numbers were even better than I'd realized. Over the past 24 months, licensing deals for my materials innovations had generated over $5 million in revenue for Meridian Technologies. The profit margins were exceptional because the development costs had already been amortized. Richardson seemed unaware of these numbers. He never mentioned the patent revenue during our meetings. He never acknowledged the strategic value of our intellectual property portfolio. He appeared to view my research as a cost center rather than a profit driver. This disconnect became increasingly apparent during our quarterly reviews. Richardson would focus on development expenses and timeline delays. He'd question the practical value of advanced materials research. He'd suggest that our resources might be better allocated to more immediate opportunities. I began to realize that Richardson's perspective was fundamentally limited. He understood software development, where you could write code, test it, and deploy it within months. He didn't understand materials research, where you might spend years developing a technology that would generate revenue for decades. The ceramic matrix composite was a perfect example. The initial research required significant investment in specialized equipment and extensive testing protocols. The development timeline was measured in years, but the potential returns were enormous. Companies developing hypersonic aircraft would need these materials. They would pay substantial licensing fees for access to proven technologies. Richardson couldn't see beyond the immediate costs. He couldn't appreciate the long-term strategic value. He wanted quick wins and immediate returns. He wanted projects that would make his quarterly numbers look good. So I began preparing for a different audience. Dr. Owari, Margaret Chen had been Meridian's chief technology officer for over a decade. She'd built the company's research capabilities from scratch, transforming it from a small aerospace contractor into a major player in advanced materials. She understood the strategic importance of long-term research investments. Chen had been my mentor during my early years at Meridian. She'd guided my initial patent applications and helped me understand the business implications of technical innovations. She'd supported my research even when it required significant upfront investments. But Chen had been increasingly focused on high-level strategic planning. She'd delegated day-to-day research management to Richardson, trusting him to maintain the innovative culture she'd built. I suspected she wasn't fully aware of how his approach was affecting long-term research initiatives. The opportunity came during a casual conversation in the company cafeteria. Chen mentioned that she was looking for examples of successful technology transfer initiatives to present at an upcoming industry conference. She wanted to showcase how Meridian's research investments had generated tangible business value. I offered to prepare a presentation on patent licensing revenue. Chen seemed interested but mentioned that she'd want to review it with Richardson first, since he was responsible for research operations. That's when I realized I needed a different approach. I couldn't go through Richardson to reach Chen. He would filter my message, emphasizing the costs while downplaying the strategic value. I needed to communicate directly with Chen, presenting the complete picture of my research contributions. The solution came through Meridian's annual Innovation Symposium. Every year, the company hosted a day-long event where researchers presented their latest work to senior leadership. Chen always attended, along with the CEO and other executives. It was an opportunity to showcase breakthrough technologies and discuss strategic research directions. I submitted an abstract for the symposium, proposing a presentation on advanced materials for hypersonic applications. The abstract emphasized the commercial potential and strategic importance of the ceramic matrix composite technology. I mentioned the patent applications and projected licensing revenue. The symposium committee accepted my proposal without consulting Richardson. They were impressed by the technical innovation and potential business impact. They scheduled my presentation for the main auditorium during the afternoon session, when senior leadership would be present. I spent the next month preparing the most important presentation of my career. I structured it as a comprehensive business case for advanced materials research, using my ceramic matrix composite as the primary example. The presentation began with market analysis. I outlined the growing demand for hypersonic technologies, driven by both commercial aerospace applications and defense requirements. I showed how companies like SpaceX and Boeing were investing billions in hypersonic development. I demonstrated that materials technology was the primary bottleneck limiting further progress. Then I presented the technical solution. The ceramic matrix composite I developed could withstand the extreme temperatures and stresses of hypersonic flight while maintaining structural integrity. The material offered significant advantages over existing alternatives in terms of performance, weight, and cost-effectiveness. But the most compelling section focused on business value. I presented detailed analysis of patent licensing revenue from my previous innovations. Over $5 million in revenue over 2 years, with profit margins exceeding 90%. I showed how this revenue stream was growing exponentially as aerospace companies expanded their use of advanced materials. I projected similar revenue potential for the ceramic matrix composite technology. Conservative estimates suggested licensing revenue could exceed $20 million over the next 5 years. Aggressive estimates based on widespread adoption for hypersonic applications suggested revenue could reach $50 million or more. The final section addressed implementation strategy. I outlined a phased development approach that would minimize upfront costs while maximizing patent protection. I proposed partnerships with key aerospace companies to accelerate commercialization. I suggested using existing licensing revenue to fund continued research and development. Throughout the presentation, I maintained a measured, professional tone. I presented facts and analysis rather than opinions or emotions. I acknowledged the challenges and risks while emphasizing the strategic opportunities. I positioned the ceramic matrix composite as a natural extension of Meridian's successful advanced materials portfolio. The day of the symposium arrived with typical corporate ceremony. The main auditorium was filled with engineers, researchers, and executives. Dr. Sursuwo Perturdi Chen sat in the front row, flanked by CEO Robert Martinez and other senior leaders. Richardson sat several rows back, occasionally checking his phone during the earlier presentations. My presentation was scheduled for 2:30 p.m. following a coffee break. I spent the break reviewing my notes and testing the presentation equipment. I'd rehearsed the content dozens of times, but I wanted to ensure perfect execution. At 2:30, I walked to the podium and began. The opening slides on market demand captured immediate attention. The aerospace industry's investment in hypersonic technology was larger than most people realized. The potential applications extended far beyond military uses to include commercial aviation, space exploration, and satellite deployment. The technical section demonstrated the innovative aspects of the ceramic matrix composite. I showed microscopic images of the material structure, highlighting the unique properties that enabled extreme temperature resistance. I presented test data showing performance advantages over existing materials, but the business case generated the most engagement. When I revealed the $5 million in patent licensing revenue from my previous innovations, I saw Chen lean forward in her seat. When I projected $20 to $50 million in potential revenue from the ceramic matrix composite, I noticed Martinez taking notes. Richardson's expression was harder to read from the podium. He seemed surprised by the revenue numbers, suggesting he'd been unaware of the financial impact of my patent portfolio. He appeared increasingly uncomfortable as I outlined the strategic importance of continued materials research. The presentation concluded with a call to action. Meridian had an opportunity to establish dominant patent positions in hypersonic materials technology. Early investment in ceramic matrix composite development could generate enormous returns over the coming decade. The technology represented a natural evolution of our existing capabilities and market position. The applause was immediate and sustained. Chen stood up, followed by Martinez and other executives. Even Richardson applauded, though his expression remained neutral. The question and answer session revealed the depth of executive interest. Martinez asked about timeline for patent applications. Chen inquired about potential partnership opportunities. The vice president of business development wanted to know about licensing strategy and revenue projections. Richardson asked the final question. He wanted to know about development costs and resource requirements. I'd anticipated this question and had prepared detailed budget projections. The initial investment was substantial but manageable given our existing patent revenue stream. The long-term returns justified the upfront cost by any reasonable financial metric. After the presentation, I was surrounded by colleagues and executives offering congratulations and asking follow-up questions. Chen approached me as the crowd began to disperse. She wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss the ceramic matrix composite in more detail. She was particularly interested in the patent strategy and commercial timeline. She mentioned that Martinez had been impressed by the revenue projections and wanted to explore expedited development options. Richardson approached as Chen was speaking. His demeanor had changed completely from our previous interactions. He seemed eager to discuss the project and explore implementation options. He asked about my research timeline and whether I needed additional resources. The transformation was remarkable. The same person who had dismissed my ideas as unrealistic was now eager to support accelerated development. The same technology he'd considered too expensive was now being discussed as a strategic priority. But the most significant change came during our follow-up meeting the next week. Richardson had scheduled a private session to discuss the ceramic matrix composite project. His tone was completely different from our previous interactions. He began by acknowledging that he'd been unaware of the revenue generated by my patent portfolio. He admitted that he'd underestimated the strategic value of long-term materials research. He suggested that we'd had communication problems that had prevented him from fully understanding my work. Then came the request. He wanted to collaborate on the ceramic matrix composite development. He offered to provide additional resources and expedited approval processes. He suggested that we could work together to maximize the commercial potential of the technology. The word collaboration was particularly interesting. Richardson had never shown interest in collaborating on my previous projects. He'd provided feedback and set priorities, but he'd never offered to work together as partners. I interpreted this as recognition that his previous approach had been ineffective. He'd realized that dismissing my work had been a mistake. He'd seen the potential consequences of continuing to undervalue my contributions. My response was measured and professional. I thanked him for his renewed interest in the project. I agreed that better communication would improve our working relationship. I welcomed his offer of additional resources and support, but I also made it clear that I would continue to pursue the research directions I considered most promising. I would maintain my systematic approach to materials development. I would continue to focus on long-term strategic value rather than short-term tactical gains. Richardson seemed to understand the implicit message. He assured me that he valued my expertise and judgment. He promised to provide the support I needed to pursue breakthrough innovations. He suggested that we could work together to balance long-term strategic objectives with short-term business requirements. The ceramic matrix composite project moved forward rapidly after that meeting. Richardson approved additional funding for specialized equipment and expanded testing protocols. He fast-tracked the patent application process and authorized preliminary discussions with potential licensing partners. More importantly, he changed his approach to evaluating my other research projects. He began asking about long-term strategic implications rather than focusing exclusively on immediate costs. He started considering patent revenue potential when assessing project priorities. The transformation extended beyond our working relationship. Richardson began presenting my work to senior leadership as examples of successful innovation. He highlighted the patent licensing revenue during budget meetings and strategic planning sessions. He positioned materials research as a key component of Meridian's competitive advantages. Dr. Gemanda Hamatin. Chen later told me that Richardson had requested a comprehensive review of our intellectual property portfolio. He wanted to understand the full scope of patent revenue and identify opportunities for expanded licensing programs. He'd asked for analysis of competitor patent activities and strategic recommendations for future research investments. This represented a fundamental shift in Richardson's perspective. He'd moved from viewing research as a cost center to understanding it as a profit driver. He'd recognized that advanced materials technology was generating substantial revenue for the company. The ceramic matrix composite patents were filed 6 months later. Initial licensing discussions began almost immediately, with 3 major aerospace companies expressing serious interest. The projected revenue estimates from my symposium presentation proved conservative. Early licensing agreements suggested total revenue could exceed $75 million over the next decade. Richardson's enthusiasm for the project continued to grow as commercial opportunities became apparent. He began referring to the ceramic matrix composite as a breakthrough innovation that would transform Meridian's market position. He highlighted the technology in external presentations and industry publications. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same technology he'd dismissed as unrealistic was now being promoted as a strategic breakthrough. The same research he'd considered too expensive was now generating substantial licensing revenue. The same timeline he'd criticized as unrealistic was now being praised as visionary planning. But I didn't dwell on the contradiction. These things happen in corporate environments. People change their perspectives when presented with new information. Leaders adapt their strategies when they recognize better opportunities. What mattered was that the ceramic matrix composite technology would reach its full potential. The patents would generate substantial revenue for Meridian. The research would continue to advance our understanding of advanced materials. The innovation would contribute to breakthrough developments in hypersonic technology. Richardson's transformation also had broader implications for materials research at Meridian. He began supporting other long-term research initiatives that he'd previously questioned. He approved expanded patent application activities and increased funding for specialized equipment. The culture of innovation that Dr. Chen had built was being restored. Researchers felt empowered to pursue breakthrough technologies rather than focusing exclusively on incremental improvements. The company was once again investing in the kind of long-term research that had made it successful. My relationship with Richardson evolved into genuine collaboration. He continued to provide strategic guidance and business perspective, but he also respected my technical expertise and research judgment. We developed a productive working relationship based on mutual recognition of our respective strengths. The success of the ceramic matrix composite project established a new model for materials research at Meridian. Projects would be evaluated based on long-term strategic value as well as short-term financial returns. Patent revenue potential would be considered alongside development costs. Technical innovation would be balanced with commercial viability. This approach proved highly effective. Over the next 2 years, our materials research group filed over 30 new patent applications. Licensing revenue continued to grow, reaching $8 million annually. Meridian's reputation as an advanced materials innovator attracted new partnerships and commercial opportunities. Richardson was promoted to Senior Vice President of Technology Development 18 months later. His success in managing the materials research portfolio had impressed senior leadership. He demonstrated the ability to balance long-term strategic investments with short-term business requirements. During his promotion announcement, Richardson specifically mentioned the ceramic matrix composite project as an example of successful technology development. He highlighted the patent revenue generated by our research group and emphasized the strategic importance of continued innovation investments. He also acknowledged the role of technical expertise in driving business success. He noted that breakthrough innovations require deep understanding of underlying scientific principles. He emphasized the importance of supporting researchers who could envision possibilities beyond current market demands. I interpreted these comments as public recognition of the value I'd brought to the company. Richardson was acknowledging that dismissing my work had been a mistake. He was demonstrating that he'd learned from the experience and changed his approach to managing research activities. The ceramic matrix composite technology continued to exceed expectations. Licensing agreements with major aerospace companies generated over $15 million in revenue during the first 3 years. Additional applications were identified for automotive and energy industries, suggesting even greater commercial potential. The patents provided Meridian with dominant positions in hypersonic materials technology. As companies accelerated development of hypersonic aircraft and spacecraft, demand for our ceramic matrix composites grew exponentially. We were perfectly positioned to benefit from this emerging market. Richardson frequently referenced the ceramic matrix composite success when discussing Meridian's innovation strategy. He used it as an example of how long-term research investments could generate substantial returns. He emphasized the importance of supporting breakthrough technologies even when commercial applications weren't immediately apparent. The transformation was complete. Richardson had evolved from a skeptical cost-focused manager into an advocate for advanced research. He'd recognized that technical innovation was the foundation of Meridian's competitive advantages. He'd learned to balance strategic vision with operational requirements. Looking back on that Tuesday afternoon when Richardson dismissed my ideas as unrealistic, I'm struck by how much changed in the following months. The same technology he'd rejected became the foundation of a major business success. The same research he'd questioned generated millions in patent revenue. But the most significant change was in Richardson's understanding of how innovation works. He'd learned that breakthrough technologies often seem unrealistic until they're proven successful. He discovered that patient investment in long-term research could generate enormous returns. He'd recognized that technical expertise was essential for identifying promising opportunities. The experience taught me valuable lessons about managing professional relationships and communicating technical value. I'd learned the importance of documenting achievements and preparing comprehensive business cases. I discovered that sometimes the best response to skepticism is patient preparation rather than immediate confrontation. I'd also learned that organizations can change when presented with compelling evidence. Richardson's transformation wasn't unique. Many managers can adapt their approaches when they recognize better strategies. The key is providing them with the information they need to make informed decisions. The ceramic matrix composite project became a model for how advanced materials research should be conducted. It demonstrated the importance of combining technical innovation with strategic business thinking. It showed how patent protection could generate substantial revenue streams. It proved that long-term research investments could create lasting competitive advantages. Richardson often used the project as a case study when training new managers. He'd explain how initial skepticism had given way to enthusiastic support once the commercial potential became apparent. He'd emphasize the importance of listening to technical experts and supporting breakthrough innovations. The story had a simple but powerful message. Technical expertise creates business value, but that value must be communicated effectively to be recognized. Breakthrough innovations often seem unrealistic until they're proven successful. Patient investment in long-term research can generate enormous returns. Richardson's transformation from skeptic to advocate illustrated these principles perfectly. He'd learned to recognize and support technical excellence. He discovered how to balance strategic vision with operational requirements. He'd become an effective leader of innovation activities. The ceramic matrix composite technology continued to generate revenue and create new opportunities for Meridian. The patents provided sustainable competitive advantages in growing markets. The research capabilities we developed opened doors to additional breakthrough innovations. 5 years after that Tuesday afternoon meeting, I was promoted to Director of Advanced Materials Research. Richardson supported the promotion enthusiastically, citing my track record of successful innovation and commercial impact. He noted that my patents had generated over $20 million in licensing revenue. During the promotion ceremony, Richardson made a brief speech about the importance of technical leadership. He emphasized that breakthrough innovations require deep expertise and patient investment. He acknowledged that managing research activities meant supporting projects that might seem unrealistic to outside observers. He concluded by noting that the best innovations often came from researchers who could envision possibilities beyond current market demands. He suggested that leaders should trust technical experts and provide them with the resources they needed to pursue breakthrough opportunities. I thanked Richardson for his support and reflected on how our relationship had evolved. We'd moved from initial conflict to productive collaboration. We'd learned to combine technical expertise with business strategy. We'd created a model for successful innovation management. The ceramic matrix composite project had become much more than a successful technology development. It had demonstrated the power of persistence, preparation, and professional communication. It had shown how technical expertise could create lasting business value. It had proven that patient investment in breakthrough innovations could generate extraordinary returns. Looking back, I realized that Richardson's initial skepticism wasn't entirely unreasonable. The ceramic matrix composite technology did seem unrealistic compared to incremental improvements in existing materials. The development timeline was longer than typical business planning cycles. The commercial applications weren't immediately apparent, but that's exactly what made it valuable. Breakthrough innovations often appear unrealistic until they're proven successful. Technologies that seem impossible today become essential tomorrow. Research that appears expensive initially can generate enormous returns over time. Richardson had learned these lessons through direct experience. He'd seen how dismissing breakthrough innovations could mean missing extraordinary opportunities. He discovered that technical expertise was essential for identifying promising research directions. He'd recognized that patient investment in long-term research could create lasting competitive advantages. The transformation wasn't just professional, it was personal. Richardson had become genuinely excited about advanced materials research. He developed appreciation for the scientific principles underlying breakthrough innovations. He learned to balance strategic vision with respect for technical expertise. Our collaboration continued to generate successful projects and commercial opportunities. The ceramic matrix composite success had established a foundation of mutual trust and respect. We learned to combine our respective strengths to maximize innovation potential. The experience had taught me that professional vindication doesn't require dramatic confrontations or emotional satisfaction. Sometimes the best response to skepticism is patient preparation and systematic documentation of value. Sometimes the most effective communication happens through comprehensive presentations to appropriate audiences. Richardson's transformation from skeptic to advocate represented the kind of professional growth that benefits everyone involved. He'd become a more effective leader of innovation activities. I'd gained a supportive colleague who understood the strategic importance of advanced research. Meridian had developed a more effective approach to managing breakthrough technologies. The ceramic matrix composite patents continued to generate revenue and create new opportunities. The technology had established Meridian as a leader in hypersonic materials. The research capabilities we developed were being applied to additional breakthrough innovations. That Tuesday afternoon in March had marked the beginning of a transformation that extended far beyond a single project or professional relationship. It had demonstrated the power of technical expertise to create business value. It had shown how patient investment in breakthrough innovations could generate extraordinary returns. It had proven that professional vindication comes through systematic preparation and compelling communication of value. Richardson's request for collaboration had been his way of acknowledging that his initial approach had been ineffective. His enthusiasm for the ceramic matrix composite project represented recognition that breakthrough innovations required patient support and strategic investment. His promotion to senior vice president confirmed that leading innovation activities required respect for technical expertise. The story had evolved from initial conflict to productive collaboration to mutual professional success. We'd learned to combine technical innovation with business strategy. We'd created a model for successful research management. We demonstrated that breakthrough technologies could generate lasting competitive advantages. The ceramic matrix composite technology continued to exceed expectations, generating revenue and creating opportunities that validated every aspect of the original business case. The patents provided Meridian with dominant positions in emerging markets. The research capabilities we developed opened doors to additional breakthrough innovations. Richardson's transformation had been complete and lasting. He'd become an advocate for advanced research and a supporter of breakthrough innovations. He'd learned to balance strategic vision with operational requirements. He'd recognized that technical expertise was essential for identifying promising opportunities. The experience had taught me that professional vindication comes through systematic preparation, compelling communication, and patient execution of strategic plans. Sometimes the best response to skepticism is comprehensive documentation of value rather than emotional confrontation. Sometimes the most effective communication happens through appropriate channels rather than direct confrontation. That Tuesday afternoon in March had been the beginning of a journey that transformed professional relationships, business strategies, and innovation management approaches. It had demonstrated the power of technical expertise to create lasting value. It had shown how breakthrough innovations could generate extraordinary returns. It had proven that patient investment in long-term research could create sustainable competitive advantages. The ceramic matrix composite project had become much more than a successful technology development. It had established a new model for innovation management at Meridian. It had demonstrated the importance of combining technical expertise with business strategy. It had shown how patent protection could generate substantial revenue streams. Richardson's evolution from skeptic to advocate represented the kind of professional growth that benefits entire organizations. He learned to recognize and support technical excellence. He discovered how to balance strategic vision with operational requirements. He'd become an effective leader of breakthrough innovation activities. The story continued to unfold as new applications for ceramic matrix composite technology were identified and new patent licensing agreements were negotiated. The research capabilities we developed were being applied to additional breakthrough innovations. The collaboration between technical expertise and business strategy was generating continuing success. 5 years later, Richardson would often reference that Tuesday afternoon meeting as a turning point in his understanding of innovation management. He'd learned that breakthrough technologies often seem unrealistic until they're proven successful. He discovered that patient investment in long-term research could generate enormous returns. He'd recognized that technical expertise was essential for identifying promising opportunities. The ceramic matrix composite technology had generated over $30 million in licensing revenue and established Meridian as a leader in hypersonic materials. The patents provided sustainable competitive advantages in growing markets. The research had opened doors to additional breakthrough innovations. Richardson's transformation had been complete and lasting. He'd become an advocate for advanced research and a champion of breakthrough innovations. He'd learned to balance strategic vision with respect for technical expertise. He'd created an environment where researchers felt empowered to pursue breakthrough opportunities. The experience had demonstrated that professional vindication comes through systematic preparation, compelling communication, and patient execution of strategic plans. Sometimes the best response to skepticism is comprehensive documentation of value. Sometimes the most effective communication happens through appropriate channels and comprehensive presentations. That Tuesday afternoon in March had marked the beginning of a transformation that extended far beyond a single project or professional relationship. It had shown how technical expertise could create lasting business value. It had demonstrated the power of breakthrough innovations to generate extraordinary returns. It had proven that patient investment in long-term research could create sustainable competitive advantages. The ceramic matrix composite project had become a model for successful innovation management, combining technical excellence with business strategy to create lasting value for all stakeholders involved.